In the previous lesson, we saw how we can work using different artistic brushes, and also how we can generate a pattern and create a customized brush and pattern. And we also changed the workspace here from the top. We switched from the essential into the painting. Now, in this video, we're gonna go back to photography because we're gonna talk about filters. And so this is the best interface that we can use, and it's already preset for us. So let's close this and start with a new file. So I'm gonna start with a new image, and I'm gonna open it from my personal folder, and you can also use your own, or you can get it from the web. Now I want to use this image because it contains some blur effect there caused by the focus and focus of the camera. So what we're gonna see in this lesson are filters and effects that are related to the camera, and this can be used to do correction, so image correction, lens correction, but also to do alteration and to the form, or to add noise or remove noise, or add blur or remove blur. So you can also use it in a really creative way. So we're going to talk about filter and applying these different filters for different purposes. Now, before we actually get into that, I want to show you that here in this interface, you can already apply some kind of filters and effects. Now, these are, you see, preset filters or adjustment layers, or better groups of adjustment layers that you can apply right away to your image. And right here, I'm just applying and just going back and forward. Now, we already talked about the importance of using adjustment layers to do color correction, and it's better to add from here the various adjustment layers rather than going into image and adjustment and apply it from here. Why? Because when I apply a filter from here, so let me just delete this one and just go back to the image like this. This is now a background, by the way. So I can unlock this by double clicking. And this is a rasterized layer. So it's not an advanced layer or an advanced object. It's a rasterized. So I can use like different types of filter when it's rasterized, and I can apply the image adjustment modes. But what happens, well, let's do like invert. So it's inverting all the colors to their opposite. Now, when I do this, you see I cannot like go back or change it anymore. It's just gonna be like, in there. It will just be a non-reversible operation if I save this file. Now, what I can do is go right away into Edit and go to Fade. So here I can fade the effect, or I can try with other blending modes right here that will give me different results. But as soon as I say okay, well, that's gonna be there. I cannot like change it many times, and I cannot go back and forth really easily. I need just to go back like Control Z with history, but that's not really something that it's comfortable. So it's better to use the adjustment layers for this reason. So levels also is a really important adjustment layer, and basically when we work with color or with the filters, we always work with darker tones, highlights, and also midtones. And this is kind of a visual representation of this. Now you shouldn't have like flat lines. Flat lines are not good for this. So you should change the position of these markers in order not to have those flat lines anywhere. And now I'm working with RGB, but I have red and I have green. So you can see here that there is kind of a flat line there. And so I can decrease this. And remember that when I decrease a color, I'm gonna automatically increase its opposite color. So you can go and adjust here, do some color correction. You can also use the custom here. There you go. And you see we're working with these tones. And also another important one, we already mentioned it earlier, is the curves. So curves is kind of the same thing about levels, but instead of working with markers, we work with curves, and we can push up or down the intensity of a color in its highlights or in the darker tones or in the mid tones. And we can work again with all the channels or only with the red, the green, and the blue. Now, also, before starting working with filters, I want to go in Edit and Preferences and go in the Performance section. Now, this is where you can decide if you want to increase the performance of your Photoshop, because some filters are really heavy, and especially the most advanced. So here you can decide if you want to use more RAM, and you have like a limit here. This is the available RAM, and if you increase it, this is gonna like affect the other software that you're using. But if you're using only Photoshop, probably you want to bump this up to the maximum, so you are faster and you have a better performance. And also here you see I'm using a graphic processor. If you have a good graphic card, make sure that you're using it because it's gonna help you, and that's especially in the 3D. Now we have this layer right here, but if you want to switch, you can convert the layer to use the smart filters, which is kind of similar to the adjustment layer. Let me just make an example. So if I go to the filter, and let's go directly in the filter gallery, which is a gallery of preset filters that you can use. Now the image is zoomed here a lot, so I can use this zoom down here and make it less zoomed. And then on the right, we have all these folders containing preset filters. Now this is kind of classic of Photoshop. So let's just use one of these. Let's go like fresco. So this is going to convert quickly your photos into kind of drawings or like other type of sketches or other type of graphics. There you go. So let's say I want to use this filter right here. I want to increase the brush size to make it look more like a painting, and then say OK. So this will apply the filter, but now you see that this is again going to be applied, and I cannot like work with this. Instead, you see that with the layer, I can turn them on and off, or I can change the opacity and the blending mode and all that stuff, which I cannot do when I directly apply the modification to the image. Now I want to open up this image again in another file. So I'm going to go back to the photos. There you go. So now instead of working with the rasterized layer, I'm going to filter and convert to smart filters and OK. So you can see this is now an advanced object or a smart object. And we know that we are limited. We cannot do like everything with this, but we can use the smart filters. So again, if I go to filter and filter gallery, again, I'm gonna show you some of these. So these are like artistic, and then you have brush strokes, which again resemble like drawings or cartoons, like effects and strokes. And then you have glass distortion, like this, looking like it's like I'm looking through a glass. And then you have like ocean ripple. So let's apply this. Let's say OK. And now you see that I have a layer here, so I can turn this on and off anytime. So this is a good way to use the filters, in my opinion, so that you can always change it and go back and forward. Now, before I continue with other filters, I want to show you that also the background and foreground colors are really important. You can see that this is the default, but let's change this to make it something like a little bit different. Like I'm gonna set the green here and a blue color, and there you go. So let's go back now to the filter. So filter gallery, and I want to show you the diffuse glow. So you can see what's doing here. You can also make this window a little bit smaller. So you can see it's turning the image with this new glow with like green and blue. It's using these colors. So if I go here, I can change all these parameters like graininess and glow amount. So this could be even more glow, and then you have clear amount. So you can play around with the various filters right here. And let me just show you again. If I reset the background and foreground and reapply the same exact filter, so you will see that it's going to be totally different now. So diffuse glow, and you can see that is going to be white. So the background color and the foreground color may affect the filter that you're using, so be careful with that. And I also like this effect. Now, if I want, I can also apply more filters directly from the filter gallery. I can open up and close this list, or I can go here and apply the same effect if I want, or I can delete, or I can apply another one. So let's go like for this one, it looks like paper, or again, you have like stamp and note, chrome, bus, relief. So a lot of different effects you can try here. Graphic pen, which is going to turn it into a drawing. And you can set here also the values for the throw length, light, dark, balance, all that stuff. So make sure you experiment with all the parameters in order to understand the different filters. And so you can apply here a new filter and then perhaps apply another one. So let's kind of apply the diffuse glow and the graphic pen together, and then you can continue. Or you can say, okay, I'm okay with this. Let's say okay, and there it is. So you have like all the filters right here, and you can also work with them, turn them on and off. And it's gonna take times. So this is why we need a better performance. When using smart filters, you need to have like a strong computer so that it's pretty fast. Otherwise, you just need to wait. Now, if you want to reapply the same filter, you can also go here and just click on filter gallery or use the shortcut key Alt Control F. Now I can continue also with these other like additional filters, but again, they're gonna take time because things here are getting heavier and heavier. So make sure you have patience. Now I want to open up another image and continue with some modifications. So let me see here. I'm gonna use this one here. I want some lights here. There you go. Now, if you don't have like focus, defocus, vignetting effects, lens effects, you can apply them using the, well, make sure you also go through all the different effects here in the filter gallery because they have really interesting effects. I'm not gonna show you everything here, but just apply them, play around. This is kind of creating cells and like, pixels, patchwork. So a lot of interesting stuff going on here. Make sure you experiment with everything. Okay, you can see now I'm not working with a smart object. So I also have others like liquify, vanishing point. And let's go to camera raw filter. Now this is also kind of a smart, really smart tool. Is treating my image like if it was a raw image. So I have a lot of possibility when I have a raw image, which is basically an image that is not compressed. So I have a lot of information about light. And so again, I can do color correction. I can work with the contrast here, with the exposure, and with the highlights. So you see how I'm working with the brighter parts of the image, the darker parts, the shadows, the whites, and the blacks. So it's all again about the tones. And then you have again temperature, and then you have tint. So hue, and then you have vibrance. So if you want more vivid colors or desaturated colors, and then you have saturation. Again, that's it. You want black and white or really strong colors. And again, you have effects that are due to the camera. So you can play with this. And then you have like things that will look like sharper. And then you have vignetting. This is usually you find is in the camera already, in the picture that you take, but you can exaggerate this effect. And then you have grain, which is kind of a noise inside the camera. And then again, we have curves. So back to the curves. And we can work with all the layers or the other RGB and so on. And again, highlights, darkness, shadows. You can see you find some always the same thing, but like in different ways. And then you have HSL, color. We already talked about this previously. And again, you have reds. You can manage the reds, the oranges, the yellows. And you can go to the opposite color and so on. Then color grading, midtones, shadows, highlights. Again, it's all over again with back to the colors again. And then detail, sharpening. So make it sharp. Noise reduction, get rid of the noise. Color noise reduction. Noise is like little dots inside your image. Usually they come up when you have like darker scenes. And then distortion, because some lenses, they apply distortion and you can like increase that distortion on, try to fix it a little bit. And then again, you have vignetting. So more vignetting. So sometimes you have like things that repeat over and over. And then lens blur. If you have a lens that is going to cause the blurriness, and you can try to blur and use a focal range here. I think I need to access this right here. So it's kind of a new, these are probably new tools. And I think this is one of the most interesting. So you have the blur amount here. So you can blur part of the image. You can define also a particular type of blur, like a particular bokeh effect. For example, if you want to see those looking like hexagons, you can increase this effect. They're going to look like hexagon. You can boost it even more. Or you can change this and they're going to look like circles. And then you have a focus range. So I can place like this part in focus and the character here, the subject out of focus. Let me change to this. I like this more. Or you can, change the focus of the image right here and perhaps make it even more defocus in this area. So it's a really, really smart. And I want to use this again, hexagon effect, which I really like. So make sure that you don't exaggerate too much, but you can either again do some color correction or you can do the image alteration. And then you have also geometry down here. And it's starting to get really slow because there are a lot of effects. So here is where you can fix again the perspective. So you can make horizontal line, vertical lines, both. Or you can also adjust it yourself using these lines like this. So you can define the perspective yourself and it's going to adjust the image. Well, you can also turn this on and off right here if you don't want to see it, or just deactivate it. And calibration again, colors again. So let's say we have enough of this. I say okay. So a lot of stuff going on here. So this was the original image, and this is like the modified image with the applied filter. Let's continue with other filters and let's go to lens correction. Again, here we can correct the type of lens. So here you have auto correction, auto scale image, and you have like search criteria. So camera make, and you change the type of camera is going to give you different lens effect that are going to affect the image. And then you have liquify. Now I'm going to talk better about liquify later, but you see here the smudge tool again. So if I go here, I can like play around with the image and create some, kind of a artistic smudging like the previous video. Or we have like reconstruct if you want to readjust the image, the original state, kind of a history brush. And then you have smooth and like twirl. And also you can adjust here the size, the pressure, the density. So this is gonna like distort the image, creating this kind of a warp effect. And then you have like this one here, which is gonna like push the image inside, or this one here is gonna magnify, so push the pixels outside. You can see it's getting really deformed. And so this works also on character and subjects, but I want to show you this more later. I'm just gonna say, okay, I'm gonna continue here with this other picture. Again, filter, vanishing point. Now this is similar to the perspective tools that we saw previously. So I'm gonna draw here a grid, or kind of a plane that I can use. And once I define here the perspective, I can start to paint. And this is gonna use, let me just increase the diameter. So we talked about the brush earlier. So it's just gonna use the perspective, meaning that it's gonna be bigger on this side than on this side. So you see it's gonna change, like if it's right there in the reality, and it's going to use the perspective. And then you have other tools that you can use, like the stamp tool, and we're going to talk about this also later. So I'm gonna do is hold the Alt key and click on a part of the image, like that symbol there, and you can see I can place it around. Now make sure that align is turned off, otherwise it's going to replicate the whole thing that you're going to select, like this. And instead, if you do align, you can repeat the element many times. So you can see I can place a lot of this, and they're gonna get smaller as the more I get far, and they're gonna get bigger the more I get closer here. So this is why we can use this really handy filter, and say okay. Let's continue here in the filter menu. And you see we also have like specific filters for 3D. This is to create texture for 3D, so it's kind of a more specific. Then you have blur, so we already talked about blur. And also you have blur gallery. So if we go like, I know, spin blur, we can start here to spin part of the image. So you can change the rotation of the spinning wheel, and then we can like rotate like this, so we can play around. And then you have field blur, instead that is more like you see there in the background, is kind of using again the focus and defocus. And then you have iris blur. Well, make sure you don't use like all together, so I'm gonna like deactivate the other two. And also we can, and also this one here. So right now we are in the field blur. So again, we have the bokeh effect right here if you add lights, and also bokeh color. And path blur also is to simulate like something that is moving in the image. So you can make this move really fast or really slow. So you just like increase. It's kind of a motion blur effect. And you can also like continue here and make all these motions, so you can like create more paths. So again, it's a really complex panel with a lot of blurring effect if you want to apply them to the image. And sometimes you don't want to apply like the effect to the whole image. So let's say I want to apply the effect only to this bicycle. I want to make it look like it's moving. So in that case, you can use the mask, or you can use also the selection. So if I, for example, use a magnetic lasso to be really quick here to select this character, well, I don't need to be precise because it's going to be blurred. So sometimes you can go really fast with selection. Sometimes you need to spend more time. So I'm going to go really fast. And the better thing is to right click and create a layer via copy, because then you can always retrieve the original. Same thing about the layers and the smart objects and so on. So once I selected this, instead of using just the selection, I will create a new layer and then apply a blur, a motion blur. So you can apply it from here. You can apply it from blur gallery, which is more advanced. So if you want to make this quick, you can go here, and you see if we increase the motion blur, the bicycle now it looks like it's moving like this. Or you can also, this is the difference here. Or again, you can also like leave these as a selection, And when you apply a filter like this, is only gonna apply to the selection. Make sure you are on the right layer, and let's use again the blur. So if you want to blur like a face or whatever, you can do, you know, radial blur or whatever type of blur, and it's only gonna work inside the selection. Now this is gonna leave like really sharp edges, so perhaps you can use the feather before you apply the filter, so it's not gonna be like too, there you go, too sharp in the passing between one and the other. And then of course you can still use the other artistic like the smudge and the other. So you have a lot of you know, tools in your pocket. But usually I copy the selection so I don't affect, well, it's gonna have a better effect right here. It's not gonna be like with the sharp edge, it's gonna be more blended. We will talk more about blurring and sharpening later, but you see here also we have blur and then distort again. If we wanna spherize the image, so we wanna apply some really you know, radical deformation of the image and distort it completely. And then we have noise. Now, sometimes we have noise in pictures. So noise are these really tiny dots that you see perhaps, you know, in some cameras, or sometime you have it because it's too dark and you use like the ISO and so on. So there are many ways you can find this noise. Also, like in 3D renderings, sometimes you find this noise. So sometimes you want to apply it to make it look more realistic. For example, if you do a 3D rendering in a virtual scene, you want to make it look more realistic, you can add the noise. Or sometimes you want to get rid of the noise. So you either noise or denoise. So this is to add, and this is to despec, also change and take off like errors, and you can reduce the noise. Now, when you reduce the noise, sometimes it's going to get rid also of the details. So make sure you don't get rid of too many details when you do the denoise. And you can also remove JPEG artifacts. JPEG artifacts are because the JPEG are compressed images. They are not raw images. So sometimes they could contain artifacts. And you can try to use that to get rid of those. But you can see it's also going to get rid of details in the image. So be careful using the denoiser. And then you have also dust and scratches. So you can simulate dust and scratches of the lens, which is gonna cause strange, you know, things inside your photograph. So again, you can do correction or you can do alteration. Pixelate, also here you have like mosaic, kind of a pixelated effect and other stuff. So you get the idea, so you can continue yourself to play around with all these different types of tools. And also don't forget that once you apply, if you apply like this, you can go to the edit and fade, and you can play around with the opacity, so you can make it more visible, less visible, or you can also change here the blending mode to create more effects that you may like. So don't forget that you have all these other tools that you can apply. And let me continue here. Render. This is to add like, well, this requires additional stuff like the flame, but we can do like picture frame right away. So it's going to create basically a picture frame. And just give it some time. There you go. So also play with that if you're interested in that. And then you have like clouds, adding clouds, or adding lens flare to simulate like a light coming from a reflection. And then you have lighting effects, also pretty interesting. So this is when, if you want to add fake lights in your scene. There you go. Now we have only one. This is a spotlight, and we can change like the color or the hotspot and all this stuff here. You can just play around with all these parameters, or you can go here up here. Sometimes make sure you check also these parts, because also you can access like parts of the the filter right here. So these are all presets that are gonna give you like different types of lights. And then you can also like select this light and move them around. So you have all these and you can turn them on and off. So really complex filter in this case. Again, let's go back into filters, and then you have stylize if you want like oil paint. So back into artistic, and well, this is taking some time. So probably it's going to be a pretty complex. There you go. Yeah, it is complex. It's kind of again simulating artistic paint, and it's going to be more advanced, but it's also going to be like way slower than the others that we seen so far. Now this depends also on how big is your image. So if you have like 4K pixels or like 8K, it's gonna take longer. So perhaps you want to work on like smaller imager first to try the filters, and then you can go into higher quality image. But you understand here how it is going to go, so you can continue to test and experiment with the other filters that are remaining there in the windows, and we will see more in other lessons. But I'm gonna stop right here for this lesson. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please subscribe to the channel, and if you wanna support us, please join the channel as a supporter and check out all the courses and guides. So thanks for watching, and see you in the next.